Hello and welcome everyone, and thank you for taking the time to review this training. My name is Dr. Netta Burley, and I am a Student Support Program Coordinator at PCA. I'm excited to be presenting on a very important topic today. Today we'll be discussing how to distinguish between student behaviors that reflect frustration, stress, or emotional dysregulation, as well as behaviors that may represent a genuine threat to safety. As educators and support staff, we encounter students who are upset, overwhelmed, angry, or impulsive. While these situations can be concerning, not every concerning statement or behavior constitutes a threat. The goal of this presentation is to provide a framework for recognizing when student behavior may require a threat assessment versus when it may be better addressed through behavioral, social, emotional, mental health, or academic supports. Understanding this distinction helps us respond appropriately, avoid overreacting to expressions of frustration, and ensure that we take genuine threats seriously. Understanding the difference between typical student behavior and a genuine threat is critical to creating a safe, supportive, and responsive school environment. Not every concerning statement or behavior requires a threat assessment, but every concern deserves thoughtful consideration and an appropriate response. So, why is this distinction so important? There are several key reasons that understanding the difference between emotional expression and a genuine threat helps create a safer, more supportive school environment. Number one, it prevents over-identification and unnecessary escalation. Students often express frustration, anger, disappointment, or stress in ways that can sound alarming. If every emotional outburst or poor choice is treated as a threat, students may feel misunderstood and staff resources may be unnecessarily diverted. Proper identification helps ensure that students receive the right support rather than an inappropriate response. Number two, protects social emotional development. Children and adolescents are still learning how to express emotions, solve problems, and regulate their behavior. Students need opportunities to make mistakes, learn coping skills, and receive guidance without being labeled as dangerous. A supportive response can strengthen trust and encourage students to seek help when they need it. Number three, it ensures real threats are taken seriously. When staff understand what constitutes a true threat, they are better equipped to recognize warning signs that require immediate attention. This helps ensure that students who may pose a risk to themselves or others receive prompt intervention and support. Threat assessment resources can then be focused on situations that genuinely warrant investigation. Number four, it reduces staff anxiety. Concerning student behavior can understandably create uncertainty or worry. Having a clear framework helps staff feel more confident in their decision making. Staff are better able to distinguish between situations that require support and those that require emergency response. Number five, it supports a tiered approach to intervention. Many students' concerns are best addressed through Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3 academic, behavioral, or social emotional supports. Understanding the difference between risk and distress allows staff to match interventions to student needs. This aligns with MTSS practices and promotes early intervention before concerns escalate. Number six, it protects the integrity of the threat assessment process. Threat assessments are designed for situations involving potential violence, self-harm, or significant safety concerns. When the process is used appropriately, it remains a meaningful and effective tool for protecting students and staff. Reserving threat assessments for situations involving genuine risk helps maintain credibility and effectiveness. Let's review some examples of situations that typically do not require a threat assessment and discuss what an appropriate staff response may look like. One of the most common situations that staff encounter is a student expressing frustration, anger, disappointment, or disengagement. Statements such as, "I hate everyone," "This school sucks," "I'm so mad right now," "Leave me alone," "Nobody listens to me," "I'm logging off," "I don't care anymore," or behaviors such as slamming a laptop shut or turning off a camera. While these statements may be concerning, they generally reflect emotional distress rather than a threat of violence. Students often use strong language when they're feeling overwhelmed, embarrassed, frustrated, or unsupported. In many cases, they are communicating a need rather than an intent to harm. The key question is whether the student is expressing feelings or communicating a plan, intent, or desire to harm themselves or others. These examples typically fall into the category of emotional expression. Remain calm and avoid escalating the situation. Check in with the student when appropriate and ask clarifying questions. You seem really frustrated. Can you tell me what's going on? How can I help support you right now? Would you like to take a break and reconnect later? Document these concerns and monitor patterns if the behavior is recurring. If the student is struggling academically, emotionally, or behaviorally, staff may want to create a Tier 1 academic support plan and EduClimber, implement classroom-based supports and interventions, follow the school's MTSS process for academic and/or social-emotional concerns, and consult with student support if concerns persist or intensify. In a virtual learning environment, staff may encounter behaviors that are disruptive, immature, or attention seeking, but do not necessarily indicate a safety concern. Examples of this may include spamming the chat, trolling classmates or posting memes during instruction, saying "fight me" jokingly in a gaming or competitive context, using dark humor without directing it toward a specific person, posting dramatic memes such as "I'm done with life" without additional concerning context, changing a screen name to something silly, inappropriate, or distracting. These behaviors often reflect poor judgment, impulsivity, social immaturity, a desire for attention, or difficulty understanding appropriate online behavior. While these actions may disrupt the learning environment, they generally do not rise to the level of a threat assessment unless accompanied by specific threats, targeted harassment, references to weapons, violence, or other concerning warning signs. What the staff should do is address the behavior using established classroom management and behavior support strategies. Redirect the student and reinforce expectations for appropriate online conduct. Use the incident as an opportunity to teach digital citizenship and responsible online communication. Document recurring behaviors and communicate with parents when appropriate. Monitor for patterns of escalation, particularly if concerning comments become more frequent, specific, or targeted. Before discussing behaviors that may require a threat assessment, it is important to understand that many concerning behaviors do not indicate a genuine threat. Students frequently express frustration, sadness, anger, stress, or poor judgment without any intention of harming themselves or others. A threat assessment is generally not necessarily when there's no evidence of an intent to harm, a specific target, planning or preparation, access to means, expressions of wanting to hurt someone. When evaluating a concerning behavior, ask yourself, is the student expressing an emotion or are they expressing an intent to cause harm? These are some examples of situations that typically do not require a threat assessment. These behaviors do not show intent, planning, or risk of harm. So examples such as common student venting or hyperbole. This assignment is killing me. I'm dead if I fail this. I want to disappear. I can't do this anymore about an homework or assignment. I hate my life after a bad grade. I'm going to throw my computer out the window, said jokingly and frustrated. I'm done with this class forever. School makes me want to cry. When these things happen, staff action can include a check-in with the student and asking clarifying questions, offering a break, and a light reminder about appropriate language. Students often use exaggerated language, sarcasm, humor, or common slang expressions that sound concerning when taken literally, but are not intended as threats. Examples include, "My mom's going to kill me if I'm late. That test murdered me. I got destroyed. I'll fight you," when said playfully while laughing. "I'm dying laughing. This is torture." These expressions are commonly used to communicate frustration, humor, embarrassment, or excitement rather than actual intent to harm someone. Context is critical when evaluating these statements. Staff should consider the student's tone of voice, facial expressions, and body language, the setting in which the statement has been made, whether the student was joking, laughing, or engaging in friendly banter, and whether there's any history of concerning behavior or threats. A statement alone does not determine risk. The surrounding circumstances helps us understand the student's true intent. What staff should do is look at if there's any uncertainty, check in with the student, and ask clarifying questions. Tell me what you meant by that. Are you joking? or is something bothering you? Are you feeling right? How are you feeling right now? Offer a break if the student appears frustrated or emotionally overwhelmed. Provide a gentle reminder about using language that may be misunderstood in a school setting, and continue to monitor the situation if there are additional concerns. Students often engage with creative content that includes conflict, battles, weapons, or violence as part of storytelling, artwork, games, books, movies, or popular culture. Examples may include writing a zombie apocalypse story, drawing a battle scene or fantasy characters fighting, creating fan fiction involving action or combat, talking about weapons used in video games, discussing action movies, television shows, or books, describing combat scenarios that occur within games. These activities by themselves do not indicate a threat and are often part of the normal creative expression, imaginative play, or age appropriate interests. Many students enjoy genres such as fantasy, science fiction, superheroes, survival stories, and action games. The presence of violence in creative work does not automatically suggest violent intent. The focus should always be on the context and whether the content remains clearly fictional and disconnected from real world intent. What staff can consider doing in most cases is really no action is necessary. Allow the student appropriate opportunities for creative expression. Continue to observe and maintain awareness of the overall context. And if concerns arise, ask neutral, non judgmental questions to better understand the student's intent. Students sometimes make impulsive comments when they're frustrated, embarrassed, overwhelmed, or dealing with a difficult situation. Examples may include, "I wish I didn't exist," said casually after a frustrating event, then laughing. "I could punch someone right now," after a technology issue or other frustration. "I'm going to quit everything," but then continues working. "I hate him," without a threat attached. "I'm so mad I could explode." "I'm going to run away," said after a frustrating event. These types of statements are often expressions of strong emotion rather than actual intent to harm oneself or others. Students, especially children and adolescents, may use dramatic language to communicate frustration, disappointment, anger, or stress. The key is to consider the context. What happened immediately before the comment? What was the student's tone of voice? Did the student continue functioning normally afterward? Is there any evidence of planning, intent, or a specific target? A single offhand comment without any additional warning signs typically does not indicate a threat. What staff can do in these situations is check in with the student in a calm and supportive manner. Ask clarifying questions to better understand what the student meant. "You seem frustrated. Can you tell me what happened? When you said that, what were you thinking? How are you feeling right now?" Provide emotional support and problem-solving assistance if needed. Document concerns when appropriate and monitor the situation over time. Pay attention to whether the comment appears to be an isolated incident or part of a larger pattern. In a virtual learning environment, students may respond to academic challenges by withdrawing, shutting down, or avoiding tasks. Examples include refusing to turn on their camera, logging out suddenly during class, not responding in the chat or during instruction, saying "I'm done" and closing their laptop, crying about assignments or becoming visibly upset, avoiding work or repeatedly saying "I can't do this." While these behaviors can be concerning, they are generally indicators of academic frustration, anxiety, stress, low confidence, or emotional overwhelm, not signs of a threat. Students may disengage when work feels too difficult, they fear making mistakes, they're experiencing anxiety or emotional distress, they lack the skills or confidence needed to complete a task, they're overwhelmed by personal or family stressors. The behavior itself often reflects a coping strategy or avoidance rather than an intent to harm themselves or others. What staff can do in these circumstances is check in with the student in a supportive and non-judgmental manner, ask clarifying questions to better understand what is contributing to the behavior. "You seem overwhelmed. What's making this difficult for you today? How can I help make this task more manageable? Is there something else going on that's making it hard to focus?" Look for signs of stress, anxiety, frustration, or other barriers to engagement. Offer support, accommodations, or breaks when needed. Create a Tier 1 academic support plan and EduClimber if academic concerns are identified. and follow the school's process for MTSS for academic or social emotional interventions when concerns persist. Up to this point, we've discussed behaviors that generally reflect frustration, poor judgment, or emotional distress without evidence of danger. This slide focuses on situations that should be treated as potential threats that require immediate follow-up. A threat assessment should be considered when a student's words or actions suggest intent to harm, a specific target, access to means or weapons, planning or preparation, statements indicating self-harm or suicide risk. The presence of one or more of these factors elevates the concern beyond typical student frustration and requires immediate attention. Examples of direct threats are statements expressing harm towards others. I'm going to hurt him after school. Tomorrow everyone will be sorry. They deserve to die. You'll see what happens when I show up. And also statements indicating access to weapons or preparation, such as I'm bringing a knife to our field trip. References to obtaining, carrying, or using a weapon. And also statements expressing self-harm or suicidal intent. I'm going to kill myself tonight. Other statements indicating a desire, intent, or plan to end one's life. Why these statements are different is that, unlike the examples discussed earlier, these statements move beyond emotional expression and suggest potential action. The concern is not simply that the student is upset, it is that the student may be communicating intent, planning, or a willingness to engage in harmful behavior. Staff should never assume a statement is a joke or attempt to determine it on their own whether a threat is credible. All threats should be taken seriously and referred for further evaluation. What the staff can do is remain calm and take the statement seriously, stop instruction or class activities if necessary to address the concern, notify administration and the student's mental health therapist immediately, follow the school's threat assessment and/or suicide risk assessment procedures, gather information and document exactly what was said or observed, ensure the student is not left unsupervised while appropriate staff respond, and follow the school protocols regarding parent notification, safety planning, and emergency response. One of the strongest indicators that a threat assessment may be needed is when a student identifies a specific target, location, or time frame. Unlike general statements of anger or frustration, targeted threats provide details about who may be harmed, where the event may occur, or when the act may take place. Examples include, I'm going to beat up Timmy after class today. I'm going to my old school campus with my dad's gun. At our school dance tomorrow, I'm fighting someone. I know where my teacher lives and she'll be sorry. These statements should be taken seriously because they move beyond emotional expression and suggest potential planning, intent, or preparation. Threat assessments focus on behaviors and statements that indicate a student may be moving toward action when a threat includes a specific person, a specific place, a specific event, a specific time frame, or access to a weapon. The level of concern increases significantly. The more specific the threat, the more important it becomes to investigate and assess potential risk. What staff can do is remain calm and avoid arguing with or challenging the student. Take the statement seriously, regardless of whether the student later claims it was a joke. Stop instruction or class activities if necessary to address the safety concern. Notify administration and the mental health therapist immediately. Follow the school's threat assessment protocol. Document the exact statement as accurately as possible. Ensure the student is not left unsupervised while appropriate personnel respond. And follow school procedures regarding parent notification, safety planning, and emergency response. One of the most significant warnings in threat assessments is evidence that a student may be moving beyond thoughts or statements and into preparation or planning. Threat assessment teams pay close attention to behaviors that suggest a student is taking steps toward carrying out harm. Examples may include showing a real weapon on camera, sending photos or weapons accompanied by threatening captions or messages, searching for or messaging others and how to hurt someone, sharing plans to harm someone through chat, email, text messages, social media, and other platforms, writing essays, stories, drawings, or other content that describes specific plans for violence against real people or locations. These actions suggest a higher level of risk because they indicate movement from thoughts or emotions towards actions. Preparation behaviors may demonstrate intent, planning, access to means, fixation on violence, efforts to communicate or rehearse harmful acts. The more evidence there is of preparation, the greater the concern for potential safety risks. In threat assessments, actions often provide more information than words alone. A student who's preparing, researching, gathering materials, or communicating plans requires immediate attention. What staff can do is remain calm and prioritize safety, stop class or instructional activities if necessary, preserve any evidence such as screenshots, emails, chat messages, photographs, or written materials, notify administration and the mental health therapist immediately, initiate the school threat assessment protocol, follow the school safety procedures, and ensure the student is not left unsupervised while appropriate personnel respond. While a single offhand comment may not require a threat assessment, repeated or escalating statements about violence should never be ignored. One of the strongest indicators of concern is a pattern of behavior that becomes more frequent, intense, or focused over time. Examples may include frequent comments such as "I want to hurt people," ongoing fascination with school attacks or acts of violence, multiple aggressive threats made over several days or weeks, increasing expressions of anger, hopelessness, revenge, or hostility towards others, repeated violent themes across conversations, assignments, artwork, social media, emails, texts, or online interactions. Threat assessment is not based on a single statement alone. It also considers patterns and changes in behavior over time. Even when threats are vague, repeated violent ideation may include growing fixation on violence, increased emotional distress, difficulty regulating the anger, feelings of hopelessness or desperation, movement towards more serious planning or intent. Staff should pay attention when concerning comments become more frequent, more detailed, or more intent. What staff can do in these situations is stop the class if needed, notify administration and mental health therapist immediately, begin threat or suicide risk assessment protocol, and students should not be left unsupervised. While threat assessments often focus on the risk of harm to others, schools must also respond immediately to concerns involving self-harm or suicide risk. Any statement suggesting that a student wants to die, disappear, harm themselves, or no longer live should be taken very seriously and responded to promptly. Examples include, "I don't want to live anymore," "Everyone would be better off without me," "I have a plan," other statements expressing hopelessness, suicidal thoughts, or intent to self-harm. Even if the student later says they were joking, angry, or did not mean it, staff should never dismiss these statements without further assessment. What staff can do is remain calm and supportive, take every statement seriously, stop class or other activities if necessary to address the situation, notify administration and the mental health therapist immediately, follow the school suicide risk assessment and safety procedures, document the exact statement or behavior that raised the concern, ensure that the student is not left unsupervised while appropriate personnel responds, and follow the school protocols regarding parent notification, safety planning, and emergency intervention. As we conclude, it is important to remember that student safety is a shared responsibility. No staff member is expected to navigate difficult situations alone or make threat assessment decisions independently. Throughout this presentation, we've discussed the importance of distinguishing between students who are expressing frustration, stress, anxiety, or emotional distress, and students whose words or actions may indicate a genuine risk of to themselves or to harm to others. While many concerning behaviors can be addressed through supportive interventions, some situations require immediate action and further assessment. When uncertainty exists, it's always appropriate to seek consultation and support. Thank you for commitment to the safety, well-being, and success of our students. When in doubt, reach out. A simple conversation or consultation today may provide the support a student needs and help prevent a more serious situation tomorrow. Thank you for your time.